Hi, I'm Greg from RVHaulers. This 2019 Kenworth T680 is being converted into an RV hauler. It's being converted to pull any large recreational fifth wheel, bumper pull, or gooseneck trailer. Join me in this video where I show you an update as to how this conversion is coming along. This is part 2 of the RV hauler build. This RV hauler is named Wheeler. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I'll have a link to that in the description down below. Now, what we've been working on is both inside the RV hauler, under the hood, and certainly we always have a lot of work that we're doing here at the back of the RV hauler. Since part 1, we have the axle positioned, and we're just getting to the point where we're going to start installing these poly fenders. These are a heavy duty, really stiff poly fender. We've got the mounting equipment and parts that are going to be tied into the frame with frame grade hardware. I'm keeping the plastic on them because we want to make sure we don't have any scratches before Marcel gets his RV hauler. What's also going to be happening is these mud flaps, they're a little long right now, but they're going to get cut down and they're going to get mounted on the back of the fenders so that they are just 4 inches above ground. So it's going to keep the debris from the wheels coming back and causing any damage to the RVs that Marcel is going to be towing. One of the things we pride ourselves on here at RV Haulers is really not keeping the blinders on. We really keep a wide field of vision, looking for things that perhaps aren't safe, maybe are going to be unreliable, or they might not give us good longevity, or we might not get good performance. We want to hit those 4 priorities every time we convert one of our RV haulers. And I've got some cool things I want to show you, which are frankly a little bit of a surprise. Now, what we discovered when we were taking these shock mounts off and removing these shocks was that the threads underneath these bolts had been, well, I think somebody cross-threaded it sometime in the past. Let me show you the original. So here's that shock that we took out, and you can see that the threads were actually really chewed up. And I think somebody originally cross-threaded that nut when it went on here, and they just kind of covered it up. They said, that'll be good enough. But of course, when we went to take it off, this thing was seizing like crazy. You can see we actually had to put the big channel locks on here and hold it, keep it from spinning, and we managed to get that off. So those shocks are a good example of how even when you've got what you think is, a newer, low mileage unit, there's often things that we'll discover during the conversion process that, well, we want to address. What I've learned is, I originally grew up on a farm. I learned that even the small things can turn into big things later on if you ignore them. Another surprise that we encountered was a condition of one of the brakes. Remember, this RV hauler has only about 60,000 miles on it, and brakes are usually, well, they last much longer than that. But let me show you a surprise that we found. Now, just to give you a bit of an orientation, we're looking at the back of the drum here, and the drums are protected by what we call these dust shields. And there's inspection ports back here, so we can take a look in there and see the condition of the brake material and just see how thick it is and whether it would pass a safety inspection. However, what you can't see through that little tiny inspection port is the actual condition of the interior of the drum. And what we encountered when we inspected these brakes was that this drum has some uneven wear and some belling. So you can see that there's, I'll try to get nice and close, there's some real uneven wear and some curvature on this drum. And here you can see some of that scoring. You can even see that there was a big chunk missing out of this one. What a brake should look like is that. It should be nice and smooth. But what I expect, or suspect I should say, like take a look at some of the little chips and chunks that are missing out of this surface. Look at the gouging that's in there. Something got caught up inside that brake, really created some scoring and some uneven wear. And let's face it, we're at a point where we've got wheels off, we're inspecting wheel seals. It's a perfect time to address that brake. Now this Kenworth uses a leveling valve to maintain the proper ride height at all times. The way this leveling valve works is if we put more weight on the back of the truck, if the pin weight increases, it supplies a bit more air to those airbags, and it always keeps it at exactly the ideal ride height. Now, what happened when we were taking this valve apart was the leveling valve attaches to a little small pin. That's probably less than 1/4 inch across. And that thing sheared off. I think it was just a little bit weak from all the actuation that's gone on over the time that this truck has been in duty. So when we went to remove that nut and pull the leveling valve off, or leveling rod off, that thing broke. So we got a new leveling valve installed. Another little surprise, well, it wasn't a surprise. We knew when this truck came in, we gave it a very thorough inspection front to back. We actually spent a full day before this truck was purchased. We went through the truck front to back because we want to find as many things as we can to make sure there's no hidden surprises. This is the fuel filter, and we could see that it was due for a change. And what was interesting is the debris that fell off of this filter when we went to go change it. This is actually what we pulled out of the bell jar. If you look at all that little junk, there was a lot of it. So we're going to make sure that this fuel is clean. We're going to do a more careful inspection down inside the tank, see what we can find. We want to make sure that there's nothing lurking in there. But I think we're going to recommend that Marcel, when he travels, carries a spare one of these with him everywhere he goes. Now in part 1 of this video, I was really happy to see that, thanks to you folks, I got some really great questions from people. One of the questions that we got on our YouTube channel and on the part 1 video was about the brake controller system. The only brake controller, in my opinion, that works well with these heavy-duty trucks is made by DirectLink. It's called the DirectLink. It's made by Tucson RV Brakes. This is the only one that I think gives you true proportional braking for electric brake trailers. So the brake controller comes in 2 main parts. There's kind of the brain of the brake controller, and what we do is we place that up underneath the dash. We hide it, we put it away. We don't need to look at it at all. There's no indicator screen or anything like that right on the brains of the system. But the brake controller, it ties right into the network of the truck. So it gets its brake information from the network of the truck and right from the pedal. It senses how hard you're pushing on this treadle and how it's activating the valve, and it applies just that same amount of electric feed back to your electric brakes. And here's the DirectLink display unit. So it's got a little lever so you can manually apply the brakes if you want to. When it comes or activates, it's got a really nice graphical display here. You've got the ability to control gain, change from a medium-sized trailer to a large trailer. But we've placed it here on the dash so that it's visible to Marcel while he drives, and he can actuate trailer brakes if he has to. Now let me talk about questions. I love questions on my videos. It really gives me direction on what I should be talking about and what you folks might find interesting. So please, if you have any questions about our RV haulers that we build, about this RV hauler, please post them down below. I love to address those. And another great question I got was about our camera system. So I'll give you an update on how that's progressing. Let's go inside the cab again. Well, here's the display for the cab cam system. It takes a little bit more work, but the reason I really like these cab cam systems is I can usually customize the dash and get it installed flush in the dash. I think it looks quite, it matches really well. This cab cam system works not only in the Kenworth, but it works very well in the Volvo. By the way, there's a plastic screen on top just protecting it. Marcel can pull that off when he gets the truck, but we're just making sure there's no chance of a scratch. But I think it really looks good. It takes quite a bit more effort to take off the dash, do the custom work, get it mounted back there, but I really think the end result is worth it. And this is the the camera. It is an agricultural quality camera, so it's got really good weatherproofing. And what we've done in this one is I've got a 50-pound welder's magnet and a really heavy aluminum stock bar. And the reason that we're using a magnet is, you might recall from part 1 that we're going to have 3 kinds of hitches on this RV hauler. We're going to have the 5th wheel, the ET hitch, the cushioning air ride one. We're going to have a gooseneck behind that. And then lastly, down below, we're going to have a bumper pull. What Marcel's going to be able to do is take this camera and magnetically mount it wherever he needs to look. He can look down at the bumper pull. He can look nice and close to the gooseneck, which will be right there. Or he can place it back here and he'll be able to see the 5th wheel. Well, that brings us to the decking. One of the things Marcel wanted to do was make the RV hauler look as tidy and neat and sharp as possible. We're going to be using some of this aluminum decking to close in this space and just make it look a little bit tidier. Something else we're going to be doing, we're going to be mounting this toolbox for Marcel so that he can carry a lot of his heavier stuff. Things like chains and things like that. We don't want to have those in the jockey boxes banging around because we've got electrical in there, the inverters in there, inverter charger. So this way we're going to keep all the heavy stuff here. What we're going to be doing is mounting this to 2 frame cross members underneath. So we're going to give it a lot of surface area to support it. And one of the important things I want to point out is we are not going to be mounting it using this aluminum decking. This aluminum decking is meant to support a person walking up here. It is not meant for carrying any kind of significant weight or bolting things to it. It's frankly quite light duty. So by putting in those cross members, we're giving this thing a really good big surface area to support it and something that can support the weight. I have a favor to ask you. While you're watching this video, again, if you thought of any questions, please pose them down below, but you can really help me out. If you found this interesting, please take an opportunity just to give me a thumbs up. Click that thumbs up and it'll help other people find our videos. The other thing that I would ask you to do is, if you found our RV hauler builds interesting, please subscribe to our channel. That way, if I post another video, there's going to be part 3 coming up in the next little while. You'll get a heads up that that's going to be when that gets released. So subscribe, but also click the bell button so that you do get a notification. Thanks for joining me in this video. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to bring up a video or 2 here on the screen. If you're interested in seeing some of our other RV hauler work, please explore our YouTube channel or here's one that you can check out now.